ran faster than he had ever run in his life. His boots made loud sounds against the smooth floor of the alien ship. The walls around him were made of something that looked like purple glass. They glowed with soft light. He could see his own reflection as he ran past them. His face was full of fear. Behind him, he heard the sound of heavy footsteps. The royal guards were chasing him. They were tall creatures with silver skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black like the deepest parts of space. They moved fast, much faster than any human could move, but did not stop running. He could not stop. His heart was beating so hard that he thought it might break out of his chest. His lungs burned with each breath. Sweat covered his face and made his brown hair stick to his forehead. He was just an engineer. He fixed machines and computers. He was not a soldier. He was not trained for this. But here he was, running for his life on an alien spaceship that was bigger than most cities on Earth. The ship was called the Mothership. It belonged to the most powerful empire in the entire galaxy. They had ruled over hundreds of planets for thousands of years. Their technology was so advanced that humans could barely understand it, and a simple engineer from a small town in Korea had somehow ended up here. He had been part of the first human team to visit the. It was supposed to be a great honor. It was supposed to be the beginning of friendship between humans and. But something had gone very wrong. Turned a corner and almost slipped on the smooth floor. He caught himself against the wall and kept running. He did not know where he was going. All the hallways looked the same. Purple walls, soft lights, strange symbols that he could not read. He was completely lost. He heard a shout behind him. The guards were getting closer. Their language sounded like music, with high and low notes that mixed together in ways that human voices could not copy, but did not need to understand their words. He knew what they wanted. They wanted to catch him. They wanted to bring him to the Queen. Queen, just thinking about her made run faster. She was the ruler of the entire empire. She had lived for over 2,000 years. Some people said she had the power to destroy entire planets with just her mind. Did not know if that was true. He did not want to find out. He saw a door ahead of him. It was bigger than the others, with golden symbols carved into its surface. Maybe it led to an escape pod. Maybe it led to somewhere he could hide. He did not care. He just needed to get away. Reached the door and pushed against it. It did not move. He pushed harder, still nothing. He looked around for a button or a handle, but there was nothing. The door was completely smooth except for the golden symbols. The footsteps behind him grew louder, turned around and pressed his back against the door. The guards appeared at the end of the hallway. There were 5 of them, all wearing silver armor that covered their bodies. They stopped running when they saw that he was trapped. They walked toward him slowly now, like hunters who had caught their prey. Raised his hands. He tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. He swallowed hard and tried again. "Please," he said, "I can explain." The guards did not answer. One of them grabbed his arm with 2 of its hands. The grip was strong, much stronger than any human grip. Felt pain shoot up his arm, but he did not try to fight back. He knew it would be useless. He was just one human against 5 warriors. They pulled him away from the door and started dragging him down the hallway. His feet scraped against the floor as he tried to keep up with their long steps. They turned left, then right, then left again. The hallways all looked the same, but the guards seemed to know exactly where they were going. After what felt like hours, they stopped in front of a massive door. This door was different from the others. It was made of something that looked like solid gold, and it was covered with jewels of every color: red, blue, green, purple, white. They sparkled in the soft light like tiny stars. The door opened slowly and felt his heart stop. The room beyond was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The ceiling was so high that he could barely see it. Great pillars of crystal rose from the floor, each one glowing with its own inner light. The floor was covered with soft carpet that looked like it was made from clouds, and at the far end of the room, sitting on a throne of pure light, was Queen. She was tall even by standards. Her skin was pale silver, almost white, and it seemed to glow from within. Her hair was long and black, flowing down her back like a river of night. Her eyes were different from the other. They were not completely black. They had small points of light in them, like stars in a dark sky. She wore a dress made of something that looked like liquid metal. It moved and flowed around her body like water. She was beautiful, she was terrifying. The guards pushed forward. He fell to his knees on the soft carpet. He kept his head down, afraid to look at the queen. His whole body was shaking. "So," Queen said. Her voice was soft but cold, like wind blowing over ice. "This is the human who dared to insult my daughter." Felt his blood turn cold. He looked up slowly and saw that there was someone else in the room. Standing beside the queen's throne was a younger woman. She was also beautiful, with silver skin and long black hair. But her eyes were not cold like the queen's. They were filled with tears. They were filled with hurt. Princess, the queen's only daughter, the woman had been running from. She looked at him with those tearful eyes and felt his heart break. He had not wanted to hurt her. He had never wanted any of this. But he had no choice. He had to run. He had to. The queen stood up from her throne. She was even taller than had thought. She walked down the steps toward him, her dress flowing behind her like a silver river. When she stopped, she was standing right in front of him. He could feel the power coming from her body. It was like standing next to a star. "Look at me, human," she said. Forced himself to look up. The queen's eyes burned into his. He felt like she could see every thought in his mind, every secret in his heart. "My daughter offered you the greatest honor any human has ever received," the queen said. "She offered you her hand in marriage. She offered to make you a prince of the empire, and you ran away from her like a coward." Opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" the queen continued. Her voice was getting colder with each word. "Do you have any idea what this means for your species? In our culture, to reject a royal proposal is the greatest insult possible. It is an act of war." Felt the world spinning around him. War. That could destroy Earth in a matter of hours. Every human would die. His family would die. His wife would die. His wife. Closed his eyes and thought of her smile, her laugh, the way she always waited for him by the window when he came home late from work. He had promised her he would come back. He had promised her he would always come back. "Please," said. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "Please, Your Majesty, let me explain. Let me tell you why I ran. I promise you it was not meant as an insult. It was not meant as an act of war." The queen stared at him for a long moment. The room was completely silent. Even the guards seemed to be holding their breath. Finally, the queen spoke. "Very well, human," she said. "I will give you one chance to explain yourself. But if your explanation does not satisfy me, your planet will burn." She returned to her throne and sat down. Princess was still crying silently beside her. "Speak," the queen commanded, and knew that his next words would decide the fate of all humanity. The throne room was silent. Every pair of eyes was fixed on. He could feel the weight of their stares pressing down on him like heavy stones. His knees hurt from kneeling on the floor, but he did not dare to move. He did not dare to do anything that might make the queen angry. Queen sat on her throne of light, her silver face showing no emotion. Beside her, Princess wiped her tears with the back of her hand. She looked so young and so hurt. Felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had not meant to cause her pain. He had not meant to cause any of this. Around the edges of the room, others had gathered to watch. They were nobles and advisors, dressed in clothes made of the same liquid metal as the queen's dress. Their black eyes watched with a mixture of curiosity and hatred. To them, he was just a human, a lower creature, an insect that had dared to hurt their beloved princess. One of the nobles stepped forward. He was an older with deep lines on his silver face. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest, and his black eyes were filled with anger. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice echoing through the great hall. "Why do we waste time with this creature? He has committed the greatest crime against the royal family. The law is clear. Death is the only answer." Several other nobles made sounds of agreement. The word death seemed to hang in the air like a dark cloud. Felt fear grip his heart, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had to think clearly. He had to find the right words. The fate of everyone he loved depended on what he said next. The queen raised one of her hands, and the room fell silent again. "Lord speaks the truth," she said slowly. "The law is clear. When a member of the royal family offers marriage and that offer is refused, it is considered an attack on our honor. The punishment for such an attack is death." She paused and looked down at. Her star-like eyes seemed to pierce through him. "But," she continued, "this human has asked to explain himself. I am curious to hear what excuse he could possibly have for his actions. What could make a creature flee from the greatest honor any being could receive?" Princess made a small sound beside her mother. It was almost like a cry of pain. Looked at her and felt his guilt grow stronger. He had met 3 weeks ago, when he first arrived on the mothership. He was part of a team of human engineers who had been invited to study technology. It was the first time any humans had been allowed so close to the Empire. Everyone said it was a sign that they were finally ready to accept humans as equals. Had been assigned to guide him around the ship. She was different from the other. She smiled easily and laughed at his jokes. She asked questions about Earth and listened with real interest when he talked about his home. She was kind and gentle, nothing like the cold and distant he had expected to meet. They had spent many hours together, walking through the gardens of crystal flowers, watching the stars from the observation deck, talking about everything and nothing. Had thought she was just being friendly. He had thought she was just curious about humans. He had been wrong. Yesterday had taken him to a private garden, far from the other members of his team. The garden was filled with flowers that glowed with soft blue light. She had taken his hand in hers and looked into his eyes. She had said, her voice trembling slightly, "I have never met anyone like you. You are kind and honest and brave. I know that our peoples are different, but I believe that we could be happy together. I want you to stay with me. I want you to be my husband." Had stood there frozen, unable to speak. His mind had gone completely blank. A princess of the most powerful empire in the galaxy was asking him to marry her. Him, a simple engineer from Korea. And then he had run. He had not said yes. He had not said no. He had just turned around and run away as fast as he could. He knew it was stupid. He knew it was rude. But in that moment, all he could think about was getting away, getting back to Earth, getting back to. Now, kneeling before the Queen, understood just how much trouble his running had caused. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "I know that what I did was wrong. I know that running away was not the right thing to do, but please, you have to understand. I never meant to insult the princess. I never meant to show disrespect to your family or your empire." Lord made a sound of disgust. Listen to him make excuses. He runs from the princess like she is some kind of monster, and now he claims he meant no insult. Does he think we are fools? Several other nobles made sounds of agreement. Kept his eyes on the Queen. He knew she was the only one who mattered. She was the only one who could save him and save Earth. "Please," he said again, "let me tell you the whole story. Let me explain everything from the beginning. I promise you, when you understand why I ran, you will not want war." The Queen leaned forward on her throne. Her eyes seemed to glow brighter. "You speak with confidence for a creature who is about to die," she said. "Why should I believe that your explanation will change anything?" Took a deep breath. "Because, Your Majesty, the reason I ran has nothing to do with the princess. She is beautiful and kind and wonderful. Any man would be lucky to be with her, but I cannot marry her. Not because I do not want to, because I am not allowed to." A murmur went through the crowd of nobles. Princess looked at with confusion in her tearful eyes. "Not allowed," the queen repeated. "You are a human, a creature from a planet that we could destroy in an instant. Who could possibly stop you from accepting my daughter's offer?" Looked down at his hands. They were still shaking. "My wife," he said quietly. The room went completely silent. The queen stared at him. For the first time since he had entered the throne room, her face showed emotion. It was surprise, pure, complete surprise. "Your wife," she said slowly, as if she was not sure she had heard correctly. "Yes, your majesty," said. "I am already married. I have a wife back on Earth. Her name is. We have been together for 5 years. I made a promise to her that I would always be faithful, that I would always come back to her. I cannot break that promise." Princess made a sound that was half sob and half gasp. Her hands flew to her mouth. "He is married," she whispered. "Mother, he is already married." Lord stepped forward again, his face twisted with anger. "This changes nothing," he shouted. "The law is the law. He refused a royal proposal. The punishment is death." But the queen was not listening to him. She was still staring at, her star eyes burning with an intensity that made him want to look away. But he forced himself to meet her gaze. He had nothing to hide. He had told the truth. "Let me understand this," the queen said slowly. "You ran from my daughter, the most beautiful and powerful princess in the galaxy, not because you found her ugly or unworthy, but because you are already bound to another woman." "Yes, your majesty," said. "And this woman, she is just a human. She has no power, no wealth, no army." "She is a teacher," said. "She teaches children how to read and write. We live in a small apartment. We do not have much money, but I love her, and she loves me, and I will not betray her, not for all the power in the universe." The queen sat back on her throne. Her face had gone blank again, but could see something moving behind her eyes. She was thinking, calculating, trying to understand. Around the room, the nobles were whispering to each other. They looked confused. In their culture, marriages meant nothing. Chose partners based on power and advantage. When a better option came along, they simply left their old partners and moved on. The idea of staying with someone because of love, even when a better choice appeared, was completely foreign to them. "This makes no sense," Lord said. "He is saying he chose a poor human woman over a princess of the empire. That is impossible. No creature would be so stupid." But the queen raised her hand for silence again. She was still looking at, studying him like he was some kind of puzzle she could not solve. "Tell me more about this wife of yours," she said. Tell me why she is so important that you would risk war, risk the death of your entire species, just to stay faithful to her." Felt tears forming in his eyes. He blinked them away and began to speak. "We met 7 years ago," he said. "I was young and alone. I had just moved to a new city for work. I did not know anyone. I was lonely. One day I got lost trying to find my new office. I walked into a school by mistake, and there she was." He smiled at the memory. "She did not laugh at me for being lost. She did not tell me to go away. She took my hand and walked me to my office herself, even though it made her late for her class. And when we got there, she smiled at me and said, 'I hope you find your way from now on. But if you get lost again, you know where to find me.'" The queen was silent. Even Lord had stopped making angry sounds. "That is when I knew," continued. "That is when I knew she was the one. Not because she was beautiful, although she is. Not because she was smart, although she is that too. But because she was kind. Because she helped a stranger without asking for anything in return. Because she made me feel like I was not alone anymore." He looked up at the queen with clear eyes. "That is why I cannot marry your daughter, your majesty. Not because Princess is not wonderful. She is. But my heart already belongs to someone else, and I would rather die than break my promise to her." The throne room was completely silent. The nobles had stopped whispering. The guards had stopped moving. Even the soft lights in the walls seemed to have grown still. Queen stared at for a long, long moment. And then, slowly, something changed in her face. The coldness in her eyes began to fade, and in its place something else appeared, something that looked almost like wonder. Watched the Queen's face as emotions moved across it like clouds moving across the sky. She was silent for a long time, her star eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. The whole room waited. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally, the Queen turned to her daughter. She said softly, "Did you know about this? Did you know he had a wife?" Princess shook her head slowly. Fresh tears were running down her silver cheeks. "No, Mother," she whispered. "He never told me. We spent so much time together. We talked about so many things, but he never mentioned a wife. I thought he was free. I thought he felt the same way I did." She looked at with hurt in her eyes. "Why did you not tell me?" she asked. "Why did you let me fall in love with you? Why did you let me make a fool of myself?" Felt his heart twist with guilt. She was right. He should have told her from the beginning. He should have made it clear that he was married. But he had been afraid. He had been told that rejecting her could cause diplomatic problems. He had thought that if he just stayed polite and friendly, everything would be fine. He had not expected to actually fall in love with him. "I am sorry," he said. "I am so sorry, Princess. I should have told you. I was wrong to keep it secret, but I was afraid. I did not know what would happen if I told you I was married. I did not know your customs. I did not want to cause problems between our peoples." "Cause problems," Lord shouted. "You have caused more than problems. You have caused a disaster. You have insulted our princess. You have made her cry before the entire court." Several other nobles made sounds of agreement. The anger in the room was growing again. Could feel it pressing against him like a wave of heat. But the Queen raised her hand again, and everyone fell silent. "Let him continue," she said. Her voice was strange now. It was not as cold as before. It was not warm either. It was something in between, curious perhaps, or confused. She looked at again. "You say you ran because you did not want to betray your wife," she said. "But surely there was another way. You could have simply told my daughter the truth. You could have explained that you were already married. Why did you run like a frightened animal?" Took a deep breath. This was the part he had been afraid to say, but he had to tell the truth. He had to make them understand. "Because, Your Majesty," he said slowly, "I did not know what would happen if I rejected the princess directly. On Earth, if someone proposes marriage and the other person says no, it is sad, but it is accepted. But I had heard stories about I had heard that rejecting a member of the royal family could be seen as an act of war." He paused and looked at the faces around him. Some were angry, some were confused, some were blank. "I was not just afraid for myself," he continued. "I was afraid for my wife, for my family, for all of Earth. I thought that if I just ran away, maybe I could get to a communication device. Maybe I could warn my people. Maybe I could give them time to prepare, or to evacuate, or to do something. I was not running because I was a coward. I was running because I was trying to protect the people I love." The Queen leaned forward on her throne. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been interest. "You were trying to protect your planet," she said. "By yourself, one small human against the entire empire." "I know it sounds stupid," said. "I know I had no chance, but I had to try. Is on Earth. My mother is on Earth. My friends, my students, everyone I care about. I could not just stand there and do nothing while they were in danger. Even if my actions were useless, I had to try." The Queen was silent again. She looked at like she was seeing him for the first time. "Your wife," she said, does she know where you are?" Nodded. "Yes. I told her before I left. She did not want me to go. She said it was too dangerous. But I told her that this was a chance to help both our peoples. A chance to learn from a chance to make the galaxy a better place." He smiled sadly at the memory. "She cried when I left," he said. "She made me promise to come back. She made me promise to be careful. And every night I would send her a message. just a few words to let her know I was safe, to let her know I was thinking of her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a communication unit, the kind that humans used to send messages across space. The guards moved toward him, but the Queen waved them back. "Show me," she said. Pressed a button on the device and a hologram appeared above it. It was a picture of a woman. She had long black hair and kind eyes. She was smiling, but there was worry in her smile. "That is," said, "this picture was taken on our wedding day. She was so nervous that morning. She kept saying that something would go wrong, but nothing went wrong. It was the best day of my life." Princess made a small sound. She was staring at the hologram with wide eyes. "She is beautiful," whispered. "She is so beautiful." The Queen looked at the hologram for a long moment. Then she looked at. "In our culture," she said slowly, "marriage means nothing. It is a political tool, a way to gain power or form alliances. When a better opportunity comes along, we leave our partners and move on. There is no shame in this. It is simply how things are done." She paused. "But you are different. You had the chance to become a prince of the greatest empire in the galaxy. You had the chance to have power beyond anything your kind has ever known. And you refused, not because you did not want it, but because you already made a promise to someone else." Nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty, I made a promise. And a promise is not something you break just because something better comes along. A promise is a promise, no matter what." The Queen sat back on her throne. She looked at Lord and the other nobles. They were all staring at with strange expressions on their faces. They looked confused. They looked like they were trying to understand something that did not fit into their world. "Is this common among humans?" the Queen asked. "This loyalty to one partner, this refusal to leave them even when better options appear?" Thought about it carefully. "Not all humans are like this," he admitted. "Some humans break their promises. Some humans leave their partners for better options. But many of us believe that love means staying. Love means keeping your promises even when it is hard. Love means choosing someone not because they are the best option, but because they are your person. The one you chose, the one who chose you back." He looked at his picture in the hologram. "When I married," he said, "I did not just promise to stay with her when things were good. I promised to stay with her always, in sickness and in health, in good times and in bad times, until death separates us. That is what marriage means to us. That is what love means to us." The throne room was completely silent. The nobles had stopped whispering. The guards had stopped moving. Even the lights in the walls seemed to have grown still, as if they too were listening. Queen stared at for a long time, and slowly something in her face began to change. The hardness in her eyes softened. The coldness in her expression warmed just a little. "I have lived for over 2,000 years, she said softly. "I have ruled this empire for 1,500 of those years. I have seen wars and peace. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen countless species reach for the stars and fail. But I have never seen anything like this." She looked at her daughter, who was still staring at its picture with tears in her eyes. "I have never seen a creature refuse power for love," the Queen continued. "I have never seen anyone choose a simple life over an empire. I did not think such a thing was possible." She turned back to. "You humans are strange," she said. "Very, very strange." And for the first time since had entered the throne room, he saw something on the Queen's face that he did not expect. She was smiling. It was a small smile, barely more than a slight curve of her lips, but it was there, and in her star eyes saw something he had not seen before. Respect. The smile on Queen's face was small, but it changed everything. The air in the throne room felt different now. The heavy weight of danger and death seemed to lift just a little, allowed himself to take a breath. Maybe, just maybe, he was going to survive this. Lord, however, was not ready to give up. "Your Majesty," he said, stepping forward with anger still burning in his black eyes. "Surely you are not going to let this insult stand. The law is clear. He rejected a royal proposal. He must die. His planet must burn." Several nobles made sounds of agreement, but they were quieter now. They had seen the smile on the queen's face. They had seen the look in her eyes, and they were not sure what to do. The queen turned her gaze to Lord. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a look that was cold and hard. "Lord," she said, her voice like ice, "I have ruled this empire for 1,500 years. I know the law better than anyone. Do not presume to lecture me." Lord stepped back quickly, his forearms dropping to his sides. He bowed his head. "Forgive me, Your Majesty," he said. "I did not mean to offend." The queen turned back too. She studied him for a long moment, her star eyes moving over his face like she was reading a book written in a language she had never seen before. "Tell me something, human," she said. "This promise you made to your wife, this vow of loyalty, what would happen if you broke it? Would you be punished by your laws?" Shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. There is no law that forces humans to keep their marriage vows. Many humans break their promises and face no punishment from the government." "Then why keep the promise?" the queen asked. "If there is no punishment for breaking it, why not simply say yes to my daughter and forget about your wife?" Thought about the question carefully. It was a good question, a question that many people on Earth might ask as well. "Because," he said slowly, "the punishment is not from the government. The punishment is from myself. If I broke my promise to, I would never be able to look at myself in the mirror again. I would never be able to sleep at night. I would carry the guilt with me for the rest of my life, like a stone in my heart that never goes away." He paused and looked at the queen with honest eyes. "And more than that," he continued, "if I broke my promise, I would not deserve love anymore. She trusted me. She gave me her heart. She believed that I would never hurt her. If I betrayed that trust, I would become someone I do not want to be. Someone who lies, someone who breaks promises, someone who hurts the people he loves. That is not who I am. That is not who I want to be." The queen was silent for a long time. The smile had returned to her face, but it was different now. Softer, warmer, almost gentle. "I think I am beginning to understand," she said quietly. "For us, honor comes from power. The more powerful you are, the more honor you have. But for you humans, honor comes from keeping your word, from being true to the people you love, even when it costs you everything." She turned to her daughter. She said gently, "Do you understand now? Do you see why he ran?" Princess wiped her tears with the back of her hand. She looked at with eyes that were still sad, but no longer angry. "Yes, mother," she said quietly. "I understand. He did not run because he thinks I am ugly or unworthy. He ran because his heart already belongs to someone else, and he could not give me something that was not his to give." The queen nodded. "That is correct." She stood up from her throne and walked down the steps toward. The nobles parted before her like waves parting before a ship. She stopped in front of and looked down at him with her star eyes. "Stand up, human," she said. Hesitated, then slowly rose to his feet. His legs were shaking from kneeling for so long, but he forced himself to stand straight. The queen was taller than him by a full head. She looked down at him with an expression that was hard to read. It was not angry, it was not cold, it was thoughtful. "I have conquered 1,000 worlds," she said. "I have commanded fleets that could darken the sky. I have lived for 2,000 years and have seen things that your small mind cannot even imagine. And in all that time, in all those years, I have never met anyone like you." She reached out with one of her hands and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin, smooth like metal. "You are weak," she said. "Your body is fragile, your life is short. In 100 years you will be dead and I will still be sitting on this throne. And yet—" She paused and something changed in her eyes, something that looked almost like wonder. "And yet you have something that I do not have," she continued. Something that I have never had. You have the ability to love someone so deeply that you would give up everything for them. You have the strength to keep your promises even when breaking them would give you power beyond your wildest dreams. She let her hand fall to her side. That is a kind of strength I do not understand, she said, but I think it may be the greatest strength of all. Lord made a sound of protest, but the Queen silenced him with a look. I have made my decision, she said. This human has not insulted my daughter. He has not committed an act of war against our empire. He has simply followed his heart. He has kept his promise, and that is something I can respect. She turned to face the nobles, her silver dress flowing around her like liquid starlight. The law says that rejecting a royal proposal is an act of war, she said. But the law was written for creatures who reject out of pride or hatred or ambition. This human did not reject my daughter because he thinks she is beneath him. He rejected her because his heart was already given to another. That is not an insult. That is something else, something our laws never imagined. She paused and looked at each noble in turn. I am the Queen, she said. I make the laws, and today I declare that this human has committed no crime. His planet will not burn, his species will not suffer. He will be allowed to return home to his wife. Felt tears of relief forming in his eyes. He blinked them back and looked at the Queen with gratitude. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, I do not know how to repay you. The Queen looked at him with her star eyes. You owe me nothing, she said, but I want you to do one thing for me. When you return to your planet, when you see your wife again, I want you to tell her something. Anything, said. The Queen smiled. It was a real smile now, warm and genuine. Tell her that the Queen of the Empire thinks she is very lucky, she said. Tell her that she has something that all the power in the galaxy cannot buy. She has a man who loves her enough to turn down an empire. That is a treasure beyond price. Felt the tears spill down his cheeks. He did not try to stop them. I will tell her, he promised. I will tell her every day for the rest of my life. The Queen nodded. Then she turned and walked back to her throne, her dress trailing behind her like a river of silver light. Princess watched her mother sit down, then looked at. Her eyes were still sad, but there was something else in them now. Something that looked like acceptance. She walked down the steps toward him, stopping just a few feet away. She was shorter than her mother, closer to his height. Up close, he could see that her eyes were not completely black like the other. They had small points of light in them just like her mother's, like stars. I am sorry, said to her. I am sorry I hurt you. I never wanted to cause you pain. Shook her head slowly. You did not hurt me, she said softly. You showed me something I have never seen before. You showed me what real love looks like. And even though it hurts now, I think I am glad I saw it. She reached out and took his hand in hers. Her fingers were cool and smooth. Go home to your wife, she said. Love her well, and maybe someday I will find someone who loves me the way you love her. Squeezed her hand gently. You will, he said. I promise you will. Someone out there is waiting for you. Someone who will love you with all their heart. You just have to be patient. Smiled through her tears. Goodbye, she said. I will never forget you. Goodbye, he replied. I will never forget you either. She let go of his hand and stepped back. The guards who had caught him earlier stepped forward, but this time they were not holding weapons. They were holding a small device that recognized as a teleportation controller. We will send you back to your ship, one of the guards said. Your crew is waiting for you. They have been very worried. Nodded, he looked at the Queen one last time and bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said. Thank you for understanding. The Queen nodded once, her star eyes bright. Go home, human, she said. Go home and love your wife. And remember what happened here today. Remember that even the most powerful empire in the galaxy can learn something from a simple engineer who keeps his promises. The guards pressed a button on the teleportation controller and felt the world dissolve around him in a flash of light. The light faded and found himself standing in a familiar place. It was the main deck of the human ship, the one that had brought his team to the mothership. The walls were gray and plain compared to the purple crystal of the ship. The lights were harsh and bright, but too, it was the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. He was safe, he was alive, he was going home. A woman in a blue uniform ran toward him. It was Captain, the leader of the human mission. Her short black hair was messy, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she had not slept in days. She shouted, grabbing his shoulders, "Are you okay? What happened? We heard that you were arrested by the royal guards. We thought you were dead." Smiled weakly. "I am okay," he said. "I am tired and hungry, but I am okay. It is a long story. I will tell you everything later." Captain stared at him for a moment, then pulled him into a tight hug. Was surprised. Captain was not the kind of person who showed emotion easily. She was strict and professional, but now she was hugging him like he was her own brother. "I am so glad you are safe," she whispered. "I did not know what to do. I did not know how to help you. I felt so helpless." Hugged her back. "You could not have helped me," he said. "This was something I had to face alone, but it is over now. The Queen has released me. There will be no war." Captain pulled back and looked at him with wide eyes. "No war," she repeated. "But I heard that you rejected the princess. I heard that rejecting a royal proposal is an act of war. How did you convince the Queen to let you go?" Smiled. "I told her the truth. I told her about." Captain looked confused, but she did not ask any more questions. She could see that was exhausted. She led him to a chair and sat him down. Other members of the crew gathered around, their faces filled with relief and curiosity. "Get him some food and water," Captain ordered, "and prepare the ship for departure. We are leaving as soon as possible." The crew jumped into action. Someone brought a cup of water and a plate of food. He ate slowly, his hands still shaking slightly from everything that had happened. His mind was filled with images from the throne room, the Queen's star eyes, Princess' tears, Lord's anger. But most of all he thought about her smile, her laugh, the way she always waited by the window when he came home late. He thought about how much he missed her, how much he loved her. He could not wait to see her again. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. The human ship was fast, but the distance between the and Earth was vast. During those 2 weeks, told Captain and the other crew members the full story of what had happened. They listened with wide eyes and open mouths. When he finished, Captain shook her head slowly. "I cannot believe it," she said. "You told the Queen of the most powerful empire in the galaxy that you could not marry her daughter because you were already married, and she respected you for it." Nodded. She said that keeping promises was a kind of strength she did not understand, but she thought it might be the greatest strength of all. Captain smiled. "Maybe she is right," she said. "Maybe loyalty is our greatest strength. Maybe that is what makes us human." The ship arrived at Earth on a warm summer evening. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Stood at the window and watched as the planet grew larger and larger. He could see the continents now, the blue of the oceans, the green of the forests, the white of the clouds. Home. The ship landed at the spaceport outside Seoul. There was a crowd waiting, government officials, journalists, scientists. Everyone wanted to know what had happened with the... Everyone wanted to talk to the first humans to visit the most powerful empire in the galaxy. But did not care about any of that. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the shouting journalists and the flashing cameras. He searched the faces, looking for the one face he wanted to see more than anything else in the world. And then he saw her. Was standing at the back of the crowd. She was wearing the yellow dress she had worn on their first date. Her long black hair was blowing in the wind. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. When she saw him, her face lit up with joy. She ran toward him, pushing through the crowd like it was nothing. And then she was in his arms, and he was holding her tight, and nothing else in the world mattered. "You came back," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You promised you would come back, and you did." Held her close and felt tears running down his face. "I will always come back," he said. "I will always keep my promises to you, no matter what." They stood there for a long time, holding each other, while the crowd watched and the cameras flashed and the sun set behind them. Finally, pulled back and looked at him with her kind eyes. "What happened out there?" she asked. "The news said you were in danger. They said there might be a war." Smiled and touched her face gently. "I will tell you everything," he said. "But first I have to give you a message from the Queen of the Empire." Looked confused. "A message for me?" Nodded. "She said to tell you that she thinks you are very lucky. She said you have something that all the power in the galaxy cannot buy. She said you have a man who loves you enough to turn down an empire." Stared at him for a moment. Then she laughed, a bright and happy sound that made his heart sing. "Turn down an empire," she said. "What are you talking about? What happened out there?" Took her hand and started walking away from the crowd. "It is a long story," he said. "Let us go home and I will tell you everything." They walked together through the streets of Seoul, hand in hand, as the stars began to appear in the sky above them. Somewhere out there, far beyond those stars, the Empire continued to rule over hundreds of worlds. Queen sat on her throne of light, and Princess dreamed of finding a love like the one and shared. But did not think about any of that. He only thought about the woman beside him, the woman he had loved for 7 years, the woman he had refused an empire for. When they got home, made tea, and they sat together on the couch while told her everything. He told her about the purple crystal halls of the ship. He told her about Princess and her proposal. He told her about running through the corridors, about being caught by the guards, about kneeling before the Queen. And he told her about the choice he made. When he finished, was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "You know," she said softly, "when you left for this mission I was so scared. I was scared that something would happen to you. I was scared that you would not come back, but I never imagined anything like this." She looked at him with eyes full of love. "You could have been a prince," she said. "You could have had power and wealth and everything you ever wanted, and you said no for me." Shook his head. "I already have everything I ever wanted," he said. "I have you. That is more than enough. That is more than any empire could ever give me." Smiled through her tears. She leaned forward and kissed him gently. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," he replied. "I will always love you, no matter what." Outside, the stars shone bright in the night sky. Somewhere out there they were watching. And perhaps, just perhaps, they were learning something new about the strange creatures called humans. Something about love, something about loyalty, something about the power of keeping promises. Looked at his wife and smiled. He did not need an empire. He did not need power or wealth or glory. He had something better. He had, and that was worth more than all the stars in the sky.